platform 4, 1543 London Midland train service to Bank Wolverhampton and Birmingham New Street.
Stafford Railway Station welcomes on average 1.7 million visitors per year. Built in 1962, the station is currently run by Virgin Trains and is served by 3 train operators: London Midland, Cross Country and Arriva Trains Wales. This small station with 5 platforms is an important mainline interchange station on the West Coast Main Line. As commuters are catching their trains at Stafford, they may notice a group of people tending to congregate at the end of the platforms. These people are train enthusiasts. Train spotting is a hobby that has been popular for many years and is undertaken by over 100,000 Britons. There has often been debates between Network Rail and train enthusiasts about their presence at stations, but Network Rail insists they are always welcome. There are some famous advocates of the hobby, including Michael Palin and Alfred Hitchcock. There are several variations of the hobby, and many enthusiasts choose one or two to concentrate on. The variations being anything from railway locomotives, rolling stock, railway history, photography, signalling, railway modelling, timetable collecting and preservation or restoration. Stafford Railway Station is a very popular station amongst the train enthusiast community, along with stations such as Clapham, North Allerton and Doncaster. To find out what the fascination is and to answer common questions asked about enthusiasts, we visited platform 3 and 4 of Stafford Railway Station.
How did I get into this? From when I was about 7 or 8. Possibly the first thing that did it was next door, but one neighbour used to be a guard on the old Great Central Railway, and occasionally he would take me with him if he was only doing a local trip, and I'd have a ride in the guards van with him. And then later on, when I met the wife, her father was a signalman, so I also spent a bit of time in the signal box that he worked in. Well, it's the photography side of it I enjoy. I mean, I do take a lot of photographs of trains, mainly for years later on. It gives you an idea of what the transport system used to be like, but it's not my only part. I'll be out photographing wildlife or even landscapes, just depending on what it is. Normally, if I come out photographing trains, it's usually twice a week. I think a lot of people, particularly parts of the press, seem, well, supposedly that it's a bit weird. Or it's hard to describe, but they seem to think that, you know, probably a lot of people are lacking. Well, this is one of the ones I like to come to. There's also one on the East Coast Main Line, Doncaster, but on the whole, I prefer, both of them are usually quite busy with, you know, trains coming through. But of the two, different locomotive classes, you tend to get a bigger variety at Stafford than what you do at Doncaster.
I started off at Bromsgrove, and it was more of a thing that me and my granddad would do. It was like, I didn't quite understand it back then. I much liked going for just the speed of it. But then throughout the rest of my life, it's been putting it on YouTube, the artistic side to it. Also, when I put it on YouTube, I quite enjoy some of the like people that are happy about it, fabulous videos and stuff. Like, I quite enjoy it quite a lot. My favourite must be Virgin Trains. It's the absolute best. There's been 2 times where I've been on the Pretendolino, and I've filmed out of the window of that as it's going along, and I've quite enjoyed that. Most people like this because they take down the numbers, and like I don't, but yeah, it's just what I did. I'm looking to be a train driver at Virgin Trains, to be fair and honest, like, because it's really good pay, and it's my favourite one. It's like, I mean, they're not going to bring the Class 90s back on there, I don't think, or the Pretendolinos, but 390, because of the speed, it's just a really exciting place.
Train spotting to me is it's not just a hobby, it's also a way of basically photographing trains as they come in, going out. Sometimes I film them. I've been doing it since, well, I've always liked trains since I was a kid, but train spotting itself I've only been doing in recent years. So I've travelled most places around the country, like here, Manchester, been to Birmingham, Crewe. Been to even Stourbridge, you know, because I've got a little 139 people carry. It's basically a little unit that goes down the track. Basic train spotting's basically get a notepad or a book. You basically, as soon as the unit comes in, there's like a 3-digit number for the class of the unit, and then there's 3-digit number for the individual number. So basically all you do is, as soon as it comes in, just make it out to it. So if you want to photograph it, just film it, or you know, you can do anything really. So as soon as I've photographed or filmed it, I'll just basically put on the computer when I've got the chance to, basically. So you know, there's many different operators around the country. You've got Cross Country, Capital First Connect, and various other ones. So, well, for example, this 390, it's very difficult for some units, like the Voyagers. They have the numbers right down the bottom there. So when you're like on the platform side, you have to sort of like go down like that to get the numbers. Numbers like on these, they're sort of like the level, so you can actually get the numbers. So, like saying, for example, 390 will have a 3-digit number, which is like a class number. So it's basically class 3 digits gives us the individual number. It's like the car has a registration plate, basically. It just basically segregates it from out all the others. So if you can see it 390, they go one look at that, and then you've got the class 3 digits. I mean, like the 390, they originally started off as 9 car, but now they're basically 11 cars because basically a couple of coaches are extended into. You know, I'd like to go around the country, like places like London. You know, the cost of fares nowadays does get quite hard to travel around, but you know, plus the time is limited as well. I mean, if you go to a place like York, you know, where you know, quite a big station, which I haven't been there yet. You know, you've got the museum there as well, so you know, it's quite a nice thought to go around the famous York Museum and have a look at the locos up there as well. The only disappointing thing about train spotting is that, as it is now, it's a beautiful day, but you are, you know, stuck when the weather's really cold and it can be really wet. So, yeah, it's not much fun doing this out in the rain.
I started train spotting back in 1970, early 70s, and it was my brother's show that got me into it, and it was purely train spotting. Go out, write the numbers down, underline them in the book, and that's how it was for a few years. And we used to come to Stafford, mainly at Stoke, and sometimes at Crewe. If you were daring, I'd go to Forest Derby. But following that, from the early 1980s, I got very much interested in haulage. And what we used to do was go for as many different locomotives as we could, many different types, and we'd travel all over the place because different locomotives were on different regions. So there were certain engines that worked in Scotland, certain ones that worked in Wales, East Anglia, and certain ones that worked around the area. And through contacts and through information we get to find out what locomotive was on the trains. And we used to go all over the place. Quite often we'd go out for a whole week on the train. Used to go home at night. Sometimes, like in Scotland, it was on the train for a whole week. So we'd end up at Carlisle because the ticket was valid from Carlisle north. We used to just live on the trains for a week, sleep on them, and there were certain trains that used to run, and certain rail staff would. There was an overnight train from Aberdeen, which wasn't advertised, but we all knew it worked from Aberdeen, so we turned up on the train to Aberdeen. And the staff would let us on early and get in, get a seat and get some sleep. And that type of thing was quite fun. I really enjoyed that because you were pitting yourself against the rail system and the timetable and late running locomotives. And sometimes, even though you'd been told a certain locomotive was working one of the trains, something else turned up. And if it was something rare, you were over the moon, but if it was something not rare, you were a little upset about it. And I carried on doing that for most of the 80s. Got round to the early mid-90s. And by the 90s, I was still doing it, but I think by then I'd grown up a bit. Started work, and didn't really have the time to come out. But it was a super cheap hobby. I mean, we used to get a rail rover for the whole of the Midlands, which would go from Crewe right the way down to Oxford, right the way down to Cheltenham and Gloucester, and as far as Rugby. And it was 12 quid for a whole week. Officially it was valid after 9 o'clock, but quite often there was a train from Stoke at 8:50, and all the staff used to just let us get on it and use it early. And quite often we'd stay out overnight on a Friday night and a Saturday and do different things. Like there was, like we'd come here on a Friday, there used to be about 5 different trains we could do from Birmingham to Crewe, and then we do a number of trains going back. And by the time we got to Birmingham, it was about 7:30, there'd be somebody who'd have all the information of what trains were working. And some of us would sort of like stay in the Birmingham area. And occasionally if there was an extremely rare engine that somebody hadn't had for a while, they said just jump on the train, and we say, where are you off to? They say, oh, we're off to Glasgow. So is working the service to Fort William. And the next thing is that would be it, they'd just go all the way up to Glasgow to do one engine. And it was good fun, and it was very much, it was a hobby that everybody was interested in. There was a small group of people. Everybody knew everybody. We'd all got nicknames, and it was fun. But when you talked to people outside and you said you were train spotting, very much it was you were around a rack, you were sad. And I think the rail enthusiasts do still have that type of image that we're all a bit strange. But there again, I don't understand why people do stamp collecting. My brother collects stamps. I don't know. I don't understand why he does. And I've got another friend who's really keen on it, and he sets up his eBay and looks at stamp prices. And I just think, why? You know, at least on a day like this where it's nice and dry and you can come out and you can listen to you can sit around and watch the trains. But I haven't really been train spotting for a number of years, simply because when privatisation came in and there was a move towards all these modern trains, these Virgin Voyages and Pandolinos and things, I just lost interest. So I spend a lot of my time now occasionally going down to heritage weekends and going on heritage diesel trains and things like that. It was good fun, and there was a lot of people out there who were interested in it. And there was no bitterness and no nastiness. It was good coming to platform stations, but apart from doing that, we also used to do depots. We used to go visiting depots on a Saturday or Sunday. But of course, back in the 80s, before all the pits closed, there was a lot more coal trains, and we used to, quite often, some friends used to come together, hire a minibus, and we used to be able to get depot permits for different sheds and go round, and we'd go around, take some photographs, take numbers of what trains were on there. And that again was part of the hobby that went alongside the going out and trying to get the haulage. So it was a mixed hobby. Everybody thought I was strange because apart from collecting loco numbers, I also collected DME numbers and carriage numbers. So I was seen as odd. But I wasn't quite as odd as some of my friends who collected coal hopper numbers. And there was a bit of a hierarchy in the train spotting community, those who would just do the locomotives, those who do collect EMU and DMU numbers, those who collect coaching numbers, and then the real sad people were the ones who collected hopper numbers. And you rated yourself and where you were in that hierarchy. So some people thought I was odd for collecting DMU numbers, and I thought people were odd for collecting hopper numbers. But everybody did it in a different way, and it was no nastiness. It was all very much a hobby where everybody got together and everybody shared information.
It's a good hobby, but you get a lot of criticism. You get people saying, "Oh, why do you do this? Why do you do that?" But to me, it's just a hobby. So. Well, they probably might think it's a bit abnormal, standing around platforms, sort of making notes of trains.
Each one to their own hobby.